Hi everyone, this is Math 0028, Section 3.5, the U-Try problems. So let's get started. Let me get my pen. Okay, so this section was all about special factoring and perfect squares. So if you look at letter A, we've got a squared minus 49. There's no GCF. You still look for that first all the time no matter what. But there are perfect squares. So you're going to set up FOIL. And you're going to take the square root of those two terms. The square root of a squared would be a. So you put a and a in the first place of FOIL. The square root of 49 is 7. So you put 7 and 7. And then since the last term is negative, there's only two terms, but that last term is negative, the signs have to be opposites, plus and minus. And that's it. Now B, the problem here, you do have perfect squares, but it's a plus sign in the middle. And when you were doing these problems in this section, it said factoring the difference of two perfect squares. Well, this is not the difference. This is addition. So as soon as you see that there's a plus sign there, okay, with the sum of two perfect squares, you cannot do it. So that is prime. Or I think when you're working in WebAssign, they want you to type in non-factorable. Make sure you spell it right so you don't get it marked wrong. Okay, so you can't do that one. Letter C, we've got no GCF, no common factor, but we do have perfect squares and it's a minus sign. So we can go ahead and set up FOIL for this one. The square root of the first term of 36x squared would be 6x, so we put in 6x and 6x. The square root of 25 would be 5 and 5. And because that last term's negative, the signs are opposites, plus and minus. Now on letter D, we're checking to see if this is a perfect square trinomial. So the first term is a perfect square, x squared, and so is y squared. So we're going to go ahead and set up FOIL, and the square root of x squared would be x and x, and then you take the square root of the last term of y squared, which would be y and y, and those go in the last places of FOIL. Now the last term is a positive, so the rule is you go to that middle sign and they're both going to be plus. And the last thing you want to do, if you didn't check to see if it was a perfect square trinomial before you started, is you need to check the outer plus the inner to make sure you get that middle term. So the outer term is x times y, which would be xy, and the inner term y times x, that's the same thing as xy, and this is where a lot of people mess up. Xy plus xy is actually 2xy, because remember there's a 1 coefficient of 1 in front of those two terms. So when you add those, you get that 2xy that you want in the middle. So it works. Another way that you can write this answer is you could write it as x plus y squared. That's another way to write that answer. Letter E. We look for a GCF. There's nothing that goes into all of those numbers, those coefficients, and the variables are not in all the terms. But now we look for perfect squares. 49x squared, that's a perfect square. So is 4y squared. So we're going to set up FOIL. And the square root of 49x squared would be 7x. So we put 7x and 7x. The square root of 4y squared would be 2y and 2y. And now the last term's positive, so we go to the middle. They're both going to be plus signs, okay? Check your outer plus your inner. Check the oi. So the 7x times 2y would be 14xy. And then in the middle, 2y times 7x is also 14xy, or yx, either way. 14 plus 14 gives me 28xy, which is what we want in the middle. So this could also be written as 7x plus 2y squared. Or you can just leave it written out twice. Either way will be accepted in WebAssign. Okay? And that is it for 3.5.